What's up guys, DigiNuts here, how you guys doing? So you can see today we're at Animal Kingdom and we're going to be playing with ND filters around all these cool waterfalls and other goodies that are here around the park. So tag along, let's go have some fun with the ND filters. Let's go. ND filters sounds so technical. What is it and should I have one? The simplest term, think of an ND filter as sunglasses for your camera. ND stands for neutral density, just like sunglasses that only limit the amount of light into your lens, but it doesn't change the color. And this is the neutral part of the name. Now when it comes to ND filters, just like you can see here, they come in all shapes and sizes, and if you go to Amazon you can find tons of brands and tons of price ranges depending on the glass, plastic, variable, all this other fun stuff. So I'm just going to basically show what I have in my bag and what I use. In this case it's an ND2, ND4, ND8 and an ND1000. Now you're wondering what these numbers mean. They refer to the amount by the light is diminished, and an ND filter 2 halves the light while the ND filter 8 reduces it by 1/8. Now of course I basically use the higher number ones like the 4 and 8. I won't really touch the 2, and I'll use the 1000 a lot when it's really bright outside, because that is something that we want to be able to darken off the scene, be able to do those long exposures in pure daylight. Now as I mentioned briefly, you can actually also get what they call a variable filter, which allows you to somewhat dial in the value. In this case you can get one that basically does all of them. They are a little pricier, as you can see here, just doing a quick search on Amazon. But I personally like to use the individual ones because that way I know exactly what I'm going to get and what I'm looking for. Now when it comes to sizes and varieties of ND filters, there's tons of them. And I'm going to show you what I have, which is usually what I carry in my bag most of the time. And I don't carry the really light ones like the ND2 and stuff like that. I usually start the ND4, ND8, and then the ND1000, which is usually my max when it's like extreme sunlight. And that is this one right here. This is the ND1000. Yep. You can't really much see through it. And then the next one here is my ND8. This one you can see through it, which is, you see it's probably my second darkest. And then my lightest is this one, which is the ND4. And that's it. That's all the three of them that I use for all my types of photos. Now notice that they're pretty big compared to the other lenses that I have. For example, here's my telephoto lens, and you can see the size of this is really small compared to this one. And what I do is that I get the biggest ND filter of the size of my lens, the biggest lens that I have, and then I buy that. And then what I do, I use an adapter which is called the ring down, and actually step up and step down like here. And what it does, it allows you to go from a bigger number to a smaller number. Like for example, this one, I don't know if you can read it, it goes from 82 to 77. So my widest lens is actually 82, and you can know by the size of the lens. You can find it in the front or on the side. In this case, here is my Sigma, and here is the number. You can see here it says 82. So if the lens is 82 and the filter is 77, because I bought it before, I actually put this little adapter, which is a step down, and it allows me to put a smaller ND filter in a bigger lens. Now it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you, the size. I'm not really losing anything, because as you can see, the ND filter goes around the lens on the inside, so I don't really lose anything using a smaller ND filter on a bigger size lens. And if not, then you can use the opposite, which is the one that steps up. And these are my three. Again, I got the ND1000, and I'll put a link to all of them down on the bottom. I got the ND8 and the ND4. That's it. And this, obviously, they're all 77. Now, since we're going to be doing long exposures, make sure you have something to hold the camera, like a bean bag or a small tripod, like I have here. Okay, so the next shot we're going to be taking is actually right here behind the Flame Tree Barbecue. And here is the camera settings that I'll be using. I like to use f8 on the camera because it's basically the sweet spot on the lenses, so it's more or less like a base. And then you'll see that the ISO I'll put as 100 or a low ISO. That way we force the camera to adjust its shutter speed. For example, here you'll see that with the ND1000 automatically it goes to 20 seconds, and then pressing the shutter speed halfway, you'll see my exposure indicator in the middle tell me where I need to adjust. For in this case, you can see it's a little bit to the right on the one. So adjusting my shutter speed up and down, you'll see it says it will be 10 seconds, to take a perfect exposure of this using the ND1000. And here's how the shot looks. To be honest, this I think is probably my favorite shot of all the series that I've done here at Animal Kingdom. And here's another one, and I love the reflections on the water. When you do long exposures, the reflections always look so cool. So make sure you look for stuff that has a lot of water on it, because you'll give it that really good crispy glare on it. Now, to really appreciate the waterfalls and doing long exposures with ND filters, we have to head over to Pandora, the world of Avatar. Tons of cool places for photos here. Let's go.
Right here at the end of this walkway, Pandora, is a really cool spot that you can take some really cool shots with the ND filters, because there's a lot of motion on the water. So let's go ahead and set it up and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Now there's a spot here all the way at the end which I love to come over here and visit my friends. I like to call them my friends because they're always here hanging out, waiting to squirt the people. So be careful.
So now here you can see we're directly with the sunlight coming towards us. So I had to put back my ND Filter 1000 because obviously we're getting directly to the sunlight here. Now using F8, the camera actually went down to 13 seconds, which is my exposure indicator said, so I can freeze the water and these friends here when they're spitting water as well. Here's how the shot looks.
Now almost in the center of Pandora is probably where you'll find the coolest waterfalls. It's not the biggest one, but it is where there's multiple ones together and provides for some really cool photos. Here's how the shot looks. Now make sure you head over to the bridge and check out to the left and right. Now these were taken during the day, but if you had the option to take them during the night, it's even cooler because you got the lights lighting up all the area and stuff like that. So here's how this shot looks. Now the other spots for photos, sometimes they're actually blocked off because they're being used for the queue line for the rides. But if you can be able to squeeze around some of the areas, you may be able to get in there. And it depends how the queue lines are being done that day. So here's a couple of other shots.
Now another really good spot is actually capturing this waterfall, which is massive. And this bridge right over here, which is the exit of Navi River Journey, is the perfect spot, as well as some rocks that you'll find over here. It gives you a really good angle to shoot this. Now you will have to use a really wide angle for this, or something, well, even if a fisheye, you're going to be right here on the bridge. So let's go ahead and take that shot. We're going to be using the ND Filter 1000, which is what I've had on since we were here in pure daylight, and get some shots. Okay guys, so that's it here from Animal Kingdom. Hopefully you enjoyed this video explaining what are ND filters and how you can use them in this park, and hopefully you can use them on your next trip to Walt Disney World, to here, and maybe any of the other parks. If you do take some photos of ND filters, tag me. I'd love to see them. Okay, so this is Disney signing off here from Animal Kingdom. Stay safe guys. See ya. Bye. Dinosaur dance, we'll dance all through the morning.